Hello, myself Rutuja Moik. Today's my topic name is Spring Bean in Java. In the context of the Spring framework, is a bean. Bean is a referred as an object that is managed by a Spring in a IOC inversion or the IOC container. Here are some key point about the Spring Beans. So the Spring Beans, definition of the Spring Beans. Spring Beans is a object that are a initializer of the assessment and health managed by the it is managed by the Spring container. They are defined in the Spring configuration file or the through the annotation in the code. So the Spring Beans configuration of the Spring Beans. So the bean can be configured in several ways. For example, XML configuration. So the in the XML configuration. So the XML configuration bean is a XML files. For example, application context.xml. So another is annotation based configuration using the annotation like a component, service, repository, context controller, combination with the component scanning are also involved. Java is a configuration on the using a configuration classes, and bean are created at the bean method to define the bean. So the life cycle of the Spring is managed the life cycle of beans, including the initialization and the destruction of the object. So the you can customize a life cycle method using at the rest post constructor, and it is a pre-destroyed or throughout the implantation. So the initialization of the bean is disturbed in a bean infra interfaces. So the scope, so the bean can be live a different scope which define that their life cycle and a visibility. So the single instance per Spring IOC container is a default scope to the default scope. So the prototype is a new instance is created in each time a bean is requested. So the requested means a request a single instance per HTTP request valid in a web application. So the sessions, a single instances per HTTP session is a valid in the web application. So the global session is an instance per global HTTP session valid in a portlet environment. So the dependency injection. So the Spring are also Spring dependency injection is a beans can have a dependencies injected into them by the Spring container. This can be done through a constructor injection and setter getter injection or a field injection. So in the queue and it has a qualifies when a multiple bean of the same type is exist at the rate qualifier can be used to specify with the bean should be the injection. So the another is a integration bean is a aspect oriented programming language. So the aspect oriented programming for a cross cutting concerns like a logging and transaction management. So the Spring Beans are a fundamental concept in a Spring framework. So the it enabling the loose coupling and easier to manage and management of the application components are also involved in this. In a Spring Bean are a most important factor in a Spring framework. It is used in all type of the live project, and it can use we can access everyone from in a project. We can hit a different API in a Spring Beans. Spring Beans is a directory which can used in the Spring framework. Spring Beans are in all auto-wired constructor. Different APIs are also involving in this. So the Spring in the Spring Beans is a most important factor are involving. Thank you.